Come in, my people. Come in and take a seat. Let's have a little talk about AI. Oh, have you heard about it? Could be controversial. Welcome. I'm Doug Tenaple. I'm the creator of Earthworm Jim, The Neverhood, Cat Scratch. I am a award-winning animator. I have done over 25 graphic novels, written and drawn. The books by hand average about 200 pages each. Thousands of comic pages. I have drawn tens of thousands of frames of animation by hand, on paper, and on Pixel. I was a showrunner for VeggieTales for 153 episodes. I did the voice directing, put the whole team together, got VeggieTales their first Daytime Emmy Award. I'm an Eisner Award winner in comics, Game of the Year, and video games. I'm a YouTuber with like 3 canceled channels of over 500,000 subscribers each. I am a pop media artist. I was raised on TV, parked in front of the TV. I love pop media, and I've always been an artist. I've drawn almost every day of my 58-year life. I draw all the time. I have performed in almost every media I can think of, stop motion animation. I do film, photography. I've done lost wax method bronze sculptures. We hand cut amberlith on t-shirts in the 80s. I draw on a Cintiq here. I do digital comics. I still do hand-drawn comics. I love it. I'm an oil painter. I'm a classically trained. I do figure art and anatomy. I studied pre-med anatomy in college. I've done more art than most of you. We have to start there on this AI talk. AI is just a tool, and all tools are neutral. A tool, a hammer's a tool, Photoshop is a tool, an AK-47 is a tool, having a digital assistant or a director of photography is a tool, a robot is a tool, AI is a tool. Tools are neutral. They're neither good or evil. It is the hands of the person that wields the tool that does something good or bad with it. So those are the rules. Now, AI comes along. Boy, I think it's one of the coolest tools I've ever seen. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It is neutral. And you're going to say, oh, it steals art, it steals whatever. You can argue all that all day. I only know that culture does not care. But this tool, AI, it allows non-artists to draw or to create images. It allows non-writers to write whole novels. I've written my own novels by hand, and I mean with a Crow-Quill pen writing, in a journal. And I've also used AI to write a 400-page novel. I've also used it, I'm not a programmer, and I've used it to spit out HTML code that can write an app that functions. It can do anything. I mean, it will do anything, and it will eventually do everything. But my goal in being here is to make things, and AI helps us make things we could never make before, including average people, to be able to get to make things they could never make before. Some of the creations are just so. Some of the things will be indiscernible from handmade stuff. Some of it will just be awful dreck. Okay. Welcome to the history of man making everything ever since we've been making stuff. So you don't have to invent Earthworm Jim to be able to create your own images of Earthworm Jim. You can ask it to make something that feels the same, and it will be done. That is, when you were 4 years old and playing Earthworm Jim and now it hits your little nostalgia place in your head, you'll be able to have AI make things that make you feel the same, even without it being Earthworm Jim. You can say, give me that Bot and Fink feeling. Give me that Earthworm Jim feeling, and it will give you things that give you that feeling. It'll also be able to make platform gaming that have similar physics, similar trigger response, dopamine hits, accomplishments, puzzle building, animated shows with a story arc, character development, strong silhouette, squash and stretch, proper timing, stuff that they threw out with The Simpsons. art got burned to the ground about 100 years ago. We're farther along than you ever thought. So the idea that now everyone's going crazy on AI is just a little precious to me. It's a little delicious. So we live in this disposable economy where we make pop media that is disposable, right? I've had my character Cat Scratch. We're on a Happy Meal. Happy Meals, of course, are like the worst form of calories that we give to kids in mass production. And I got to have a Happy Meal of my characters, and I thought it was just the greatest, checked a box in my mass media bucket list. It's largely disposable. Funko Pops are largely disposable. There's landfills full of this stuff. And people would prefer to buy that than buy a handcrafted piece of art. And that's because life is not fair. It has never been fair, and it never will be fair. So welcome to the discussion on AI. On AI being easy and cheap is amazing because right now, the reason why you can't direct a movie is probably because you don't have $250 million, or someone won't give you $250 million. So you have a bunch of Hollywood studios holding the whole world at ransom, saying you don't get to see your story because you don't have $250 million. We have $250 million. That's why we're making White Chicks too. So all of your stories, and every person was made to write stories, create stories. In fact, when I ask you, what are you doing today? And you tell me what you did today, you're going to tell me a story. You can't make a movie because it's too expensive, or you can't make an animated feature because you don't have a crew of 20 or more people to animate for you, and you don't have that minimum $4 million. Well, now you will. With AI, and I don't care who you are, even if you're a non-artist, you'll be able to make an animated feature for free or cheap. They'll be disposable. They'll be everywhere. Video games, you'll be able to write your own code, first-person shooter, just describe it, it'll spit it out, and it'll run. Massive multiplayer online role-playing games for cheap or free. And that's going to be the most disruptive thing. Pop media, this is only pop media arts that it affects. It doesn't affect if you're carving the David out of marble. Can't do that. Can't do a lot of things like that. But cheap, disposable, empty calorie pop media, comedy shows, avatars talking on your YouTube channel, write your own hip hop song, write your own symphony. It can do that, and it will do that very, very soon. It will be exponential, and it will be insane. And right now it's clunky and terrible. Everyone knows the lip sync's terrible. Guys, it's not going to stay that way. I see new tools drop every day that explodes AI, and it is just getting bigger and bigger. And there's obviously no real limits to what it's going to do. Okay. And I'm not a big tech guy. I hate tech. I hate Photoshop. I hate that I have to draw in Photoshop. I hate that I have to send digital files. I hate digital pre-press on all my comics. I hate digital animation. I hate 3D animation. I hate CG. I'm a stop motion animator. When Jurassic Park comes along, everyone goes, hey, CG, it's going to end stop motion. And Wallace and Gromit, they still make regular stop motion. It's a hobby thing. It's a hobbyist thing, largely. The complaining about AI is really complaining about a market of pop media, which has largely been garbage and empty calories, that is going to get disrupted. That's the big tantrum. Real artists are not threatened. To my friends out there, if you're a real artist and you really craft things, no one promised you a living. 99.9% of the artists can't feed their family on what they make. They never have. So that's not going to change for most of them. Maybe 0.5% now will have a tough time competing. And it's just, I just think it's so abstract. It's silly. It was never a requirement that disposable pop media had to be time consuming or expensive. And so that's the greatest thing that AI is going to bridge. And resistance to AI art, it really isn't about art, because you and I are free right now to pull out a set of crayons and draw. Nothing's stopping us from doing that. So all of the complaining is really angry that guy over there can do it for free. And now my market is getting cut into. I want to protect my market. This is a competitive market that's being added. It's cheap. AI can make mass stuff. We've always been attracted to that. So this is post-industrial age. McDonald's sells the most cheeseburgers. It is not a culinary expert. It's not the most artistic. But if artistry has something to do with mass, that is, lots of people liking something like the movie Maverick, brought a bunch of people into theaters, that's an art form to entertain masses as opposed to just three people and do it well. So McDonald's is very good at making cheeseburgers that I still eat, a Big Mac. When I want me a Big Mac, I'm going to McDonald's. And that thing is made for billions of people to enjoy. That's an art form in and of itself. Audiences do not care about culinary quality. You can tell. That's why they eat Fruit Loops. That's why they eat Big Macs, is because mass consumption and mass pleasure. And that's why there will be 100% adoption of AI. So you and I can complain about it all we want. We can say, I don't like it. It's immoral. It's terrible. It's coming. Doesn't make it moral, doesn't make it right, but it's coming and you're not going to stop it. So you can sit there and be grouchy and that's fine. There's old men yelling at I yell at clouds all the time. I'm an old man yelling at clouds. Like, I can't believe same-sex marriage is legal. And you all go, screw you, old man. Get with the times. You're going to be left in the past. And that's what I say to every artist that complains about AI. Keep yelling at those clouds because you're going to be left in the past. 90% of the artists out there, I said before, can't make a living on their craft. And our egos are very frail. 90% of the artists that can't make a living, you're going to blame AI. AI isn't the one that stole my dreams. It's your own mediocrity, your own lack of vision. And when I say you, I don't mean you specifically. I mean the royal you of artists for the last 100 years who gave up their charter, didn't learn how to fight, never fought for anything, sold out to $5. And if a union asked you to march, you went out and marched, and then the union would throw animators under the bus to protect their superstars. They've always treated artists like second-class citizens and lunatics, and many artists act like second-class citizens and lunatics, and we have it coming. So resistance to AI is primarily about other people getting to enjoy making. And I think there has to be, and you think there's some kind of a rule that they have to learn how to go and crush their own cobalt blue they came out of a mountain, with your little pestle, and grind up your pigment. And then that guy lost his job because they started selling oil paint in tubes, and you didn't care. That guy lost his job, and you just said, well, I get to buy it in a tube. And the guy that sells those paint in the tubes, when Photoshop has this digital palette, you just click a perfect cobalt. You don't have to even know anything about cobalt or color theory. You just pick that color. Boom, you're drawn with it. No preparation. You didn't care when that guy lost his job. And now your job gets taken. Maybe. I doubt if most people are even working that are complaining. And then you're like, tech has to stop right here because now your ox is getting gored. But you didn't care when a million other oxes got gored before you. And I'll give you lots of examples of that. And AI is just one more disruptive form of tech in a long line of tech. And we're on the very, very front, very first molecule of the disruption that AI is going to present. You ain't seen nothing. As a human being, I think you'll always be more at peace when you realize that none of us get our way all the time. I've dealt with that my whole life. Everyone seemed to be okay with me not getting my way, and you don't get your way either. And it's always bad when someone loses their job. It was very sad when Photoshop came along and lots of people lost their jobs. That's very real. And a lot of people are going to lose their jobs over AI, even more with robots, probably. But it's going to come. It's disruptive. Real animators, I'm talking about those of us who are on paper, real animators. Ray Harryhausen, we did stop motion and all that, real animators. We complained that Hanna-Barbera made limited animation in the with the Flintstones. They had to find a way to make animation work on TV. They made it's animation that barely even moves. Same with Japanimation that moves. They shoot it on 8s or 12s, instead of on 1s and 2s like real animation. So it's real skippy. No one cared. No one cared. Hanna-Barbera learned how to make animation for TV using this limited animation, using multiple planes. So Fred Flintstone's body could sit there and his mouth would just move. And it completely took over, like primetime animation and Saturday morning cartoons, just in the early 70s. Just Hanna-Barbera was all the time, every year. Scooby-Doo, Scrappy-Doo, Fangface, Captain Caveman, Wacky Rangers, Herculoids, Space Ghost, just name it. All limited animation just took over, and the audience loved it. Terrible animation, cost effective. If you like Yogi Bear and Magilla Gorilla and Top Cat, the 9 old men were never impressed with that stuff. You're probably in the generation that thinks Simpsons is good, well written, it's funny as heck, but they threw every animation principle out. There's not overlapping action. In fact, they deliberately took out the low overlapping action. King of the Hill is made to look like high school art, really badly animated. There's no successive breaking of joints. They don't do extreme poses. There's no drama or acting to it. The characters in The Simpsons, even they're famous for just staring off into space. Same with Family Guy. It's the irony stare. They destroyed animation. It was the mainstream destruction of animation. So Simpsons, I see as a really big move toward kind of pop media in the animated world. South Park, literally no animation, just a bunch of kids cussing. And again, Matt and Trey, funniest guys in the world. I'm not saying it's not funny. I'm saying it was disruptive, and you championed it. We used to have to hand sculpt facial expressions, and then Coraline just printed all the faces out with a 3D printer, and they did replacement faces on their animation. No one cared that the sculptors were out of business and that a bunch of 3D tech guys were swapping out a new disruptive tech to make things cheaper, easier, faster, maybe better, just made a new style. But you didn't care. And now you must atone. So welcome to get your big boy pants on, because AI is coming to turn all the tables over. Keep complaining, won't change a thing. My adoption of it or rejection of it will not change a thing. This show, this episode that I'm putting together right now, in the big picture of things, does not matter one lick. I just hope to clarify a few arguments with you. There's a big difference between mass media art and real art. Mass media art is made to entertain tens of thousands, maybe even millions. Real art, it might only entertain the original user. Maybe no one cares. I always love people that learn to play piano. They're not going to play in a symphony. And they go home, they play piano by themselves. It is very hard to learn piano and guitar and flute and the harp. And there's not a bunch of music being made today that uses the flute and the harp. And yet they still go and work on the craft, because making beautiful art is worth it doing in and of itself. And you're only mad that you can't make money at it. Trying to protect a market that makes landfill for the last 100 years in the industrial age, going all the way back to the Venus of Willendorf, this little fat, round, little African idol or whatever it is was made. We're going to go all the way back there. Or the caves of Lascaux, where some hunter wasn't paid, went into a cave, had no light bulb, had a little torch, and made the bison. Amazing design. Going all the way back. All we knew about artists going all the way back, Chesterton said, is that they were, they could design, but that they were religious. That's what we know about art, going all the way back to the caves of Lascaux. The illuminated manuscript, hand-drawn Bible pages, Book of Kells and all that, absolute beauty. About 3700 BC, came the mass production with the lost wax method thousands of years ago. And the guy that handmade, hand-beaten armor or hand-beaten sculpts and stuff like that, he was out of a job because lost wax allowed them to manufacture them. With this cast, they melt the wax out, they can just make a mold, they reproduce it. About 1440, you've got the printing press. There were guys that were handwriting the manuscripts, they were scribes, and suddenly you have a printing press that just goes chunk, chunk, chunk. So now you're starting to have technology that disrupts that market. If you're reading a book that's been printed and you're complaining about AI being disruptive, I don't think you fully understand. 1920 is the Ford motor, the mass production of cars. That put all the buggy whip makers out of business, the horse and buggy out of business. I did not build my car. I drive a car. I buy a mass produced car. It disrupted, it created a new market of jobs, the factory assembly line, which is new, by the way, in the industrial age. The handmade craftsman could not compete. Same with industrial farming. I'm from the farmland of the San Joaquin Valley in California, almond farmers, and now it's just all computerized, mass produced, mass taken over. No one cared. 1961, Walt Disney brought xerography into Disney. That's when instead of the ink and paint girls who'd have to hand draw the character on the Mylar animation cell, they would just Xerox it on there. Used a Xerox copying machine to copy that cleaned up pencil line and put it on the Mylar. They lost their jobs, and it was but it was faster, cheaper. Disney didn't like it, but they used it in Jungle Book and the Aristocats and Robin Hood. And then in 2007 came the iPhone, and we no longer did a dial-up. We carried our little computer with us. That was enormously disruptive also. Same with Amazon mailing and shipping CDs to our house instead of going to a store. And now I buy my groceries and Amazon delivers them to my house, and I can buy anything I want and Amazon will give it to me tomorrow. If I need Band-Aids, they'll just ship it to me tomorrow. I don't go down to the Walgreens down the street. That's too much work. It's disruptive. Those of you who draw with Photoshop, I draw with Photoshop too. I've drawn probably more than you in Photoshop. I can just hit copy and paste, select, and I can copy an image from here to here. And that doesn't even take good design skill. Lots of people are using Photoshop with terrible design skill. They never learn the principles of value, clarity, appeal, rhythm, composition. They don't learn those principles. They don't teach it in college anymore. In fact, they teach you whatever you want to come up with is probably true. So that was lost long time before you got Photoshop, and the skills of using Photoshop lost long time before AI came along and is going to just cut a lot of those steps out for your average person. We'll always love homemade art. So this is what I mean by AI does not threaten your ability to make art. People are throwing a tantrum because it's disrupting a market. This is about money. You're a commodity. You're a wedge. You're in a factory. You're on an assembly line. This has nothing to do with being a real artist or a real musician or a real writer or a real accountant who loves to count numbers. When you go to the county fair, you can still see handmade jars of jams and preserves. They also have painting, contests where you can put your painting into the county fair, and you can also make a quilt. They have quilts and first place of the quilts, because even though we still mass manufacture those things, jams and quilts, they still have it there at the county fair. You can even grow a pumpkin and get a little ribbon for it, because it's saying that we still respect and love handmade crafts, even though AI is going to completely disrupt the pop mass media that goes in the landfill. Completely disposable shows, movies, video games, and comic books. You can still hand throw. This is a hand thrown mug. They make a ton of them, but this is actually hand thrown. They can make like 1,000 of them almost exact, and they're really functional and really beautiful and cooked. But it doesn't mean that you can't also make a coffee mug through Vistaprint, and I can put one of my comic panels on it. Okay. The argument is between AI disrupting mass media, and you have a right to right now to go carve Michelangelo's David out of stone. Your name is Jenny. You can do Jenny's David. Go get a chisel, get 18 feet of marble, and go carve it out of stone. No one's stopping you from do that, but you don't have the control to make carving a David out of marble more acceptable than 3D printing. So you yourself can go carve a David. You yourself can go oil paint. You yourself can go hand animate a cartoon, or you don't have the ability to stop a market from rewarding mass-made AI art. That's why you're angry. You can influence a market with your great works. And I think we still go to like live bluegrass and stuff like that, even though AI can do a version of it. But you're really angry because before you had a death grip on influence. Like if you work for a studio, you're like, I enjoyed the protectionism of animating for Warner Brothers. or for directing for this or for working for EA Games. I had some protection and no one else could touch it because it's too expensive. Too bad for you if you want to make a game. You don't get to tell your story. I get to tell my story. One thing I've learned is that art is not about me. When I made Earthworm Jim, it goes out into the masses and the masses start drawing it themselves. All right. It becomes theirs. All I can do is create it and then it goes out there. It's no longer mine. And I can't control even what you do with it. You can do all kinds. You can make punk rock stuff out of it. You can make heavy metal stuff out of it. You can make it violent. You can make it preschool. It becomes yours. I learned that from Bill Watterson with Calvin and Hobbes. He said he was really more concerned about creating it and he had a hard time controlling it after that. Or as the great Viktor Frankl said, you can't control anything but your response to what other people do to you. So you can control what happens with a creation once you've seen it. You can't go and control an entire market. I always say you can't change the internet. So good luck arguing on Twitter and trying to change the entire internet to convince them of something. This is my little show. This is my little tiny bit of it that I'm going to try, but and it's not about me. It really doesn't matter what I think about AI. This is just my own thoughts. But the creator as celebrity was always an unfortunate accident. That that I made Earthworm Jim is not as important as you enjoying Earthworm Jim. And frankly, a lot of people don't know that I made Earthworm Jim. Probably millions of people don't know. In fact, millions of people think that I just do political videos on YouTube. They don't watch because I'm famous and because I made Earthworm Jim. They watch because I just make political videos. They have no idea that I'm an award-winning, very accomplished artist. So getting back to all tech is disruptive, but not all who suffer in the past, who've had their jobs taken away by tech, they're not as entitled as today's artists. Today's artists are crybabies. Precious little crybabies. There's never been a tantrum thrown about other tech quite like the tantrum thrown over AI. And I think that's just a modern thing where we complain a lot more. And if I get a toothache, it's the end of the world. And back during, if you went to the Sistine Chapel, you were probably like deformed, and like if you got a root canal or a bad tooth, you could just die. No penicillin, no painkiller if they had to remove your breast and you had breast cancer like back then. Today, it's like one tiny little. I can't control the entire art market. We just come unglued. I am made up almost entirely of scar tissue. I've been beaten, just screwed over every way you possibly can as an artist and as a creator. And so it's very hard for me to get dramatic when anything bad happens to me. As a director and as a showrunner and an animator, I've seen a lot of portfolios, and most artists, not only will they never work because they're so bad, they probably shouldn't work. Hollywood destroyed animated pictures. AI didn't do that. Hollywood did it. They didn't. They had it's like a single car accident. They did an unforced error. They hate their audience. They fractured the audience. Go watch Snow White. We've spent millions on pop media, and we spend even more time, swiping right on Netflix. In fact, if you ever, that's just millions of dollars of productions going by that are just unwatchable. When I watch Netflix, I end up spending more time flipping to the right than watching a show. And frankly, the thumbnails and the titles are better than almost all of the productions. So big loss on destroying this entire industry that spends billions of dollars and can't tell a freaking story that everyone wants to watch. That's like 99.9% of what's made probably shouldn't even exist. So this is 28 years of hot garbage, and the only new intellectual property that's been made that I can even think of is The Matrix. That's any good. Nothing, everything else is just sequels and just disposable crap. And pop media, it'll be replaced with this AI Frankenstein monster is coming. The biggest insult will be most of the audience won't care and won't even notice. That's how disposable most animation is. For those of you that say AI steals and copies, I've gone into this before, but art already copies everything. In fact, what's in your mind is an idea. And when you draw a line, it is a representation of that idea. The line itself is not the thing. The line is always a representation of an idea in your head. So you're copying a thing in your head, and all AI does is just spit out another thing that triggers your mind to feel or communicate something. It doesn't have to be a line drawn. This is my fun thing that I do is I grab this is a pack of Crayola crayons, a 12 pack, and I drew this eyeball just for fun. It's what I do to kind of mock the arts. In fact, it would have been even better if I never showed it to anyone. This is not an actual eyeball, of course. This is a bunch of crayon molecules that I bend and set up to trick your mind into seeing an eye. In fact, you can see nothing but an eye if I did it right. I'm trying to tell you this is a wrench or a pipe. You wouldn't even be able to see it because the visuals force your mind to see what I actually told you to see. But that drawing, the crayon's actually just an avatar to an actual thing that I'm trying to get you to think. It's a trick. AI is another trick. Michelangelo's David is incredible in that it's made of marble, but that's a trick because it represents David the man. And David the man is a miracle made by God. He has muscles and sinews tied together. It's impossible to make that. In fact, Michelangelo can carve a David out of marble, but no one can make a David but God. It's pretty miraculous if you think about it. It's pretty amazing. So AI, it doesn't just sculpt with lines. And the problem is people think of it as just disrupting art, but it does more than just kind of regurgitate photos and 3D images. It's attempting to, the artificial part of it's attempting to emulate thinking. And it's enough to fool the masses into thinking that they're being entertained. If you look at most memes and really bad AI videos that are really funny, they're already being entertained by stuff. We spend most of our time looking at memes and Instagram and YouTube videos more than we spend our time reading Shakespeare. So that bus on pop media has already left the station. But what's weird is AI doesn't just sculpt with lines and 3D images, it sculpts with whole ideas. Entire productions can be made. So if you look at it just at the line level or just at you didn't draw that, it can sculpt entire concepts and ideas. And that's going to be shocking because right now it's very bad at creativity. It's going to be very good at creativity. It's very bad at having a voice. It's going to get very good at having a voice. You just have to keep stepping back and see what it's doing. I'm not a great programmer. In fact, I'm not a good mathematician. I can use AI to do math. No different than spell checker. You didn't freak out when you used spell checker. You didn't whip out your dictionary or your Strong's exhaustive concordance and get mad that it's doing all that work for you. But art has always allowed whole ideas, whole works of others to be assembled into a new artwork called assemblage. They make stuff out of other people's stuff all the time. Like I see guys that sculpt, the camera moves around. It looks like a cardinal from one angle. And when you move the camera around it, it's made of a bunch of toys that were glued together. That guy didn't make those toys. He created something new using these toys that already existed. So that's always existed. Andy Warhol did it with his art where he stole pictures of, Marilyn Monroe and he just kind of recolor them, or the Campbell soup cans. He saw where this was going. He was making fun of kind of the manufacturing of mass media and using other people's art. You also have great artists like, I don't want to say great, I have to put them in quotes, Marcel Duchamp, who took the Mona Lisa and just drew a mustache on a print of the Mona Lisa, made a new piece of artwork. He did not come up with the original Mona Lisa. He just drew a mustache on it. And it recently sold last month for $700,000. It's been in every museum going around the world. Same with guys like Claes Oldenburg, Banksy. They reuse other stuff, other images all the time. They didn't create them, but they interpolated them, and AI does interpolation. It doesn't just copy and paste a image that it got on Google. It always alters it in some way. Artists never asked permission, usually didn't ask permission to reuse other people's art. And AI doesn't do it either. The Midjourney AI, I know that my art was some of the stuff that they used to train it. They didn't ask my permission. I'm not getting a royalty on it, but I influenced that art. And I think it's kind of cool that there's some of my design sense in that tool when other people make characters. There's some Doug TenNapel art in there. There's some of my art is in there. helping people create. AI, all I know is it's going to be more disruptive than people imagine. I can guess where it's going better than some, but don't be mad that your accountant will be able to animate better than you by hand, because you as an animator will be able to do your own accounting better than that accountant. So all of these tools, design, accounting, banking, is going to be stripped, and you'll just be able to speak into it, do my taxes. It's going to be a voice. You're just going to talk to your computer and say, do my taxes. Come up with a plan. It's going to come up with a plan. It doesn't mean you have to follow it. Again, you're always at liberty to throw your computer out and go do your taxes by hand. You can go do animate by hand. I got news for you, because you could pay, $500 for an accountant to do your taxes, or you can ask AI for free and just go do my taxes, and it does it for free in an instant. I don't think we have to spend a lot of time guessing which one you're going to choose. And that's the same thing with people watching animation. So individuals are going to be able to create this stuff. There's going to be hundreds and thousands of animated shows, comic books, novels written, shows, video games. You'll be able to make it and prompt it. Hundreds and thousands of it, which is going to remove that market. It's not going to be able to compete. It's going to be free. The people are going to devour it. Most of it will be unthinkable garbage, like 99.9% of it. The mass media audience, again, does not care about quality, which is why they eat those Big Macs. Okay. Now, this is the YouTube era. When I was growing up, there were only three, networks, and there's no way I could have gotten my animation, on one of those networks. I was going, how do I trick the world into getting my own television network, And now YouTube gave us all a television network, and we all got to make our own shows, like 400,000 episodes a day go up or something like that. Most of it unwatchable, I'll agree, but cream kind of floats to the top. A favorite show, a Mr. Beast will still come out of that pile and become popular, or a Joe Rogan will still come out of all those millions of broadcasts and will be popular. So quality will still make its way to the top, even in AI, for the masses. Now, and right now, more people watch YouTube than any other media source in the world. So you can sit there and poo-poo it and go, if you just let people make their own garbage, it's not going to be able to compete with my masterpiece. No, YouTube has disrupted every market. When I worked, at Nickelodeon, on cable, they were terrified of Netflix. My friends, when we worked on VeggieTales at Netflix, Netflix was terrified of YouTube. YouTube's terrified of something. We're going to make a lot of stuff, guys. A whole lot of stuff is coming. The good news is, if you like Big Macs, there's going to be a whole lot of Big Macs. If you like Simpsons and pop media and music, it's going to be just laying around everywhere. Your 3-year-old's going to be able to prompt AI and make stuff. So I like making stuff. Like I said, I was raised on this pop media stuff. Excuse me. There's going to be complete devouring of AI. That market is coming. Now, I don't know how they're going to monetize that fire hose. That's a big question. Probably the old ad model will be there. Advertising still works. You show a little ad before your garbage AI creation, and you might get a little something. Or it'll go behind a paywall, and there'll be 10,000 creators making 10,000 video games a day, and it goes behind a paywall, and you go to videogamesmadebyus.com and you pay whatever a month, and you get to play 10,000 video games. It'll go behind a paywall. Fine. I don't believe in the paywall model, but I believe microtransactions are going to come for each of our attention down to the second, where anything that you pay attention to is going to get a micro kind of a royalty payment. That is, our attention should be something that someone pays for on our behalf. And also, when they sell your data, they ought to be cutting you in on royalties of everyone who buys your data and uses it. As your phone tracks you, like Elon Musk, you should be cutting us in on those royalties, and everyone won't mind giving you their data to move and sell. It's all being transacted anyways anytime you're on the computer. So the new market will arise. That's another thing about disruptions, is markets arise. On those who, if you choose not to use it, I only know that AI will be better. Making art with AI will be better used if it's by an artist. So if you're a plumber and you use AI, you'll probably be a better plumber than a plumber that does not use AI. An artist will probably be a better artist who uses AI. A programmer will be a better programmer who uses AI. A novelist will be a better novelist who uses AI, even if it's just as an assistant to help you with some tools and take some background tasks off of you. So I'm a huge advocate of, I think artists should jump in and start using it to help benefit your art, because I actually think a artist will be able to make better art using AI than, say, a plumber will be able to make art using AI. And like I said, no artist or programmer will be required to use AI. So that still, it's not a threat. If you want to do your coding by hand and you want to be that kind of a programmer, you can go be a purist, as the next programmer next to you who uses AI kicks your butt, outlaps you, writes better code, cleaner code, faster. The market will have a say on who gets the job. These bulky, expensive 350-man development teams on video games that cost $250 million are not going to be able to compete with a third grader that just tells a prompt, make this world building game. That's why the majority of anti-AI is, it's really protectionism of a market, and it's in disguise of caring about art. And I know that they don't care about art because you guys buy Funko Pops and think Ninja Turtles is a great animated show. The last 100 years proves that almost no one really cares about quality that much. Here's another thing that I made. This is an Elon that I made out of coffee, because I thought, what makes Elon stay up all night and work? I go, probably coffee. And now in hindsight, I probably should have painted this out of ketamine. Well, this is a regular Galadriel, just a watercolor that I did. But this is one of my favorites. This is Tom Cruise. I painted him out of ketchup because everyone loves ketchup. Now, AI cannot make a Tom Cruise out of ketchup. It can make an image look like this, but it can't make it actually out of ketchup. So these are kind of my anti-AI tests to see if I could make art that it just can't touch. There's still lots of art that it can't touch. Can't make an Elon out of coffee yet, until they make a printer cartridge that uses coffee, I guess. I think most artists, you fear art, and you're not brave, you don't have courage, and you fear drawing, taking a blank piece of paper and drawing. This is what you fear, this blank paper. And that's why you sell art to your peers. Because if you're selling to a culture of your peers, then you are not performing. That's why you're really upset about what AI is going to take from you, is you're going to have to look into this abyss and decide what to draw, and that terrifies you. Anti-AI people are really just mad that something came along that sells to your peers better than cheaper, stronger, and faster than you do. You're mad that AI does it better. And the market that can be replaced by AI and robots will be replaced by AI and robots. And then you'll be stripped of the right to be you won't, though you'll want to, you'll want to sell your art and sell your whole life just to make Funko Pops, but you won't be able to. So you'll be stripped of your right to be a whore and a commodity. And then what will you do? Then what will you decide to draw when you can't sell it anymore? That might be when the real artist arrives. You'll have to look at that blank piece of paper and look inside yourself for the first time and say, now that I can't make a dime at it, what shall I draw? You'll have to find a reason to draw, to make a line. Maybe you'll stop thinking, I have to sell to my culture. Because if you're already selling to a culture, by the way, you're selling out, because you're not breaking new ground. You know what to make to get them to buy it. And it's basically to take your culture and do your own version of it. You're not going to innovate. You're not going to think way outside of the box. But when you look at that blank piece of paper and there's no money to be made, you might just become an artist. And you might just go, maybe instead of doing something just to make a dime, maybe I'll make something true, good, and beautiful. And that's what I think will happen with AI.